Welcome to We Who Are Dark,
a conversation in history and humanities. I'm Dr. Neil Vaz.
And I'm Trent Tomengo.
All right, so we're back. Another episode here. How you doing? You good?
I'm doing good.
Last time we were talking about the diaspora in general, and we talked about that black people are bigger than just the United States of America. There are black people.
That's the global definition of black, not the Malcolm X definition.
Yeah, not the Malcolm X definition.
Right.
The global definition of black. And besides, we've already problematized the term and everything like that. You guys go back and watch the other episodes. Let me start.
No. So we should define it at this point. Black is, for the people who didn't listen to the earlier podcast, black is the men, women, and children who, because of the transatlantic slave trade, European colonialism, Western imperialism, are globally dispersed, culturally hybrid, and narratively engaged in multilingual Pan-African polemics with each other and the world at large.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, so that's the definition. That's what we're talking about.
Exactly what it is.
So now go diaspora.
So when you see people that look like us in Brazil, in Jamaica, in Colombia, wherever, Mexico, wherever you may go, there's a reason for this. And as we were talking about before, there was something called the transatlantic slave trade that dispersed people of African descent all over the Western Hemisphere. All right. Now, the United States, a lot of people don't realize this, was only about 5% of the transatlantic slave trade.
Now, I've told people 17% because the things that I've read, it was 17% of the slave trade. But you corrected me on that because what makes the difference between 17% from what I know and the 5% that you know?
I think what the 17% might be considering, it might be considering transshipments. All right, transshipments are people that are being sent to another island like Cuba or another place.
So we're talking about seasoning,
and then they get transported
to America. They send them to the Caribbean to season them, break them, and then come to the United States.
Yeah.
So the 17% I'm talking about were in total.
Yeah.
But actually, from Africa to the United States,
it's only about 5%.
5%.
All right. So when you're looking at Brazil was somewhere around 40 to 45%. All the 12.5 million Africans that were taken out of Africa and brought to the Americas, Brazil was about 45%, around 45%.
So mostly South America.
When you're looking at the Caribbean, the islands, that is around 30 to 40 something percent, right? When you're looking at Central America, that's a small percentage as well. But America, United States, what would later become the United States of America, is only about 5%. And so there's a very small number.
Why is that
in generally speaking? It's important because sometimes as Americans, we have a tendency to think like American exceptionalism, right? America's like the center of the world, the center of the universe. But it's more to the story than that. And I think if you're really trying to understand the history of black people in America, you got to also understand the history of black people in other places.
Okay.
You got to understand the context.
Okay.
And as you said in the last episode, you also have to understand that that you're not a minority, right? When you're considering the people that had the same historical experience as you all over the Americas, you are a majority, right? And just to kind of get back into the history of this, the transatlantic slave trade was not started by English-speaking people. It was actually started by the Portuguese and the Spanish.
They were the first one to partition Africa.
Yeah. The Portuguese went around the west coast of Africa and they started engaging in trade. One of the main things that they were looking for was gold, right? They're also looking for trade routes to the east, and they're also looking for to convert the people that they came across into Christianity, because there was an issue there with the Muslim world. There was a Muslim caliphate that basically had controlled the Mediterranean region, had that whole area
this was
unlocked.
a part of the Catholic Reformation.
Yeah, around this time period.
This is a Reformation where you would extrapolate those ideas outside of Europe.
Yes.
And you claim lands in the name of God.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and it also had to do with creating Catholic allies to fight against these Muslims. And parts of Africa were Muslim, but there were parts of Africa that were not Muslim. They wanted to be able to capture those people and turn them into Christians, turn them into Catholics. All right. So one of the first places that the Portuguese made contact with, not just contact, because they made contact with the Upper Guinea region of Africa, but one of the first places that they converted to Catholicism was the Kingdom of Congo. All right, so you find a lot of Africans coming out of the Kingdom of Congo in that region and the neighboring regions in the early period of the transatlantic slave trade. But the Portuguese and the Spanish had divided the world. And the crazy thing is, like, they acted like they were the only ones that mattered. So they divided. They said, oh, the Portuguese get everything east of this line, and then the Spanish are going to get everything to the west of this line. So the Portuguese had all the access to Africa. That was considered their land to be able to go and create trade with.
I did not know this.
And then the Spanish, and then that line goes all the way through, I forget the name of the line, and I wish I had this in my head. It's like it was the Treaty of, and it starts with a T. We'll put it in the video. It's the treaty of, it was a treaty that they had, and the line goes through the Atlantic Ocean and it cuts off a little part of South America. And that part of South America is Brazil today.
Wait, treaty?
It was a treaty.
So I don't know about this, but I do know about the Treaty of Westphalia.
Yeah, so the Treaty of Westphalia is
So
later.
how does that, the Treaty of Westphalia, 1648?
1648.
How does the Treaty of Westphalia coincide with this treaty you're talking about?
Well, the Treaty of Westphalia is when more Europeans are now getting involved in mercantilism and exploration and trade. Now, so these different Europeans all come together and basically agree that the nation state is going to be, I guess, the supreme institution that people hold allegiance to.
So how I understand the Treaty of Westphalia is that we are not going to fight against each other.
And that goes along with that.
We're going to put our national boundaries where we're going to put them.
They're going to draw their
lines.
But
let's go outside of ourselves and do that.
Yeah.
That's what I understand the Treaty of Westphalia to be.
And that is it. And so the Treaty of, there's basically saying, because remember, the church, people used to pledge their allegiance to the Catholic Church at a certain point. Okay. Sometimes people used to pledge their allegiance to a landlord, a lord at the time. They said, forget all that stuff, because there was complications with what people should be pledging their allegiance to, whether it be the church, whether it be lords, whether it be this, whether it be that. And they said, the nation state is going to be that supreme thing, that institution. And then we're also going to draw our boundaries and say we're going to respect each other's boundaries, right? You know, even though Europeans never really did, wars still happened after that. But in the grand scheme of things,
we respect our boundaries.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, they're saying these are our boundaries. We're gonna respect each other. Anything else, if you want to rape, pillage, murder, take, it's gonna be those other people, right? And that's 16.
That's the other.
Yeah, that's the 1640. That's the Treaty of Westphalia. Before the French and the English and all of them really got involved in all that, it was just the Spanish and the Portuguese that were thinking that they were the supreme beings on the planet. And so they divided the planet in the way that they did.
So wait a minute. This treaty, what time period was this treaty?
That's early 15. That's like 1502.
So this is before the Treaty of Westphalia.
Yeah, way before.
All right, go ahead.
I think it was about 1502.
All right, go ahead.
All right, and so they it might have been late 1400s.
Okay, all right.
So the way the Portuguese saw it, they say, okay, Africa's ours, America's yours. Now, the only part of America that belonged to the Portuguese was just that very eastern tip of South America, which today we know as Brazil. All right, and that's why Brazil to this day speaks Portuguese. the Spanish had most of the Americas. They claimed it for themselves. So the Spanish were like, when they got there, the natives were there. The natives were dying off from diseases and things like that.
So wait.
So
There's no difference between America and South America. This is like Americas.
Yeah, there were the Americas, yeah. And they said...
This is going to come up later.
So when they got to... And at the time, remember, they didn't even know that they were in another place called America. They thought that they were in India, Asia...
Which is why they call everybody Indian.
That's why they call them Indians, yeah. It wasn't until Amerigo Vespucci, another explorer, he realized in the early 1500s, he's like, this is not what y'all were saying it was. This is a whole different place.
Which is where America gets its name from.
Amerigo Vespucci.
Vespucci.
Yeah.
Vespucci.
Something like that. It's from an Italian name. I don't know how to pronounce Italian names. I'm trying my best. Right? Christopher Columbus's name is not even Christopher Columbus. That's the anglicized version of it. All these Italians, right?
So I ain't gonna tell you what Vespucci sound like to me. Go ahead, just go ahead.
So the Portuguese signed a contract the Spanish signed a contract with the Portuguese.
Okay.
And they said, okay, the Spanish said, we need labor. Portuguese said, okay, well, we got you. Signed the contract. Portuguese would go make the contacts in Africa to deliver the labor to the Spanish. So the majority of the African labor that made its way into the Spanish colonies came by way of Portuguese slave ships.
Say that one more time.
The Spanish and the Portuguese signed a contract with one another. And because the east side of this line, of this treaty that I'm talking about, dividing the Atlantic Ocean, belonged to the Portuguese. The Portuguese were the ones that went to Africa to collect the Africans.
Because that was their side.
That was their side. But they delivered them to the Spanish in all of the colonies. Because remember, the majority of North and South America it's Spanish colonies.
Spanish colonies.
Yeah.
I get that.
Right? And so this was a relationship that they had going on for a very long time. It was called the asiento. The asiento.
I read about that.
Yeah, the asiento was that contract, right?
Okay.
Now there was a certain period later on where different Europeans got involved with that contract, but for a very long time it was strictly Portuguese.
What's the name of it? Asiento?
Asiento.
A-S-I-E-N-T-O?
Yeah, A-S-I-E-N-T-O, yes. Asiento. It just, I speak Spanish now, and it just means seat. But it was a form of a contract.
Right.
Yeah, asiento. So.
Well, hold on. It just means seat?
Yeah, seat.
But that's not inconsequential. Because I've heard if you don't have a seat at the table, you are not. What is it? You're on the menu.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. If you don't.
Who's that?
Who said that again?
Was it Malcolm X? It wasn't Malcolm X.
No, it wasn't Malcolm X.
If you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu.
Yeah.
Like that. If you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So that's what that means. So the Portuguese had a seat at the table with the Spanish, and the Spanish had a seat at the table, and everybody else was just part of the menu. So the asiento was that agreement. And so for a long time, as a matter of fact, if you actually look this up, between 1500 and 1640, do you know what part of the Americas most African people went to?
No. What?
Mexico, Peru, and Brazil.
I knew Brazil.
Mexico, Peru, and Brazil. You would never know Mexico.
Right.
And you never know Peru. Peru actually has a little bit more black people than Mexico does. But after that date, the transatlantic slave trade kind of waned to those regions, and it started to pick up. Once the British and the French started getting involved, they started getting their own colonies and started taking them to different places. But that's why all Mexican people, if you do a DNA with them, they have African blood in them. Peruvian people, it's the same thing. Because the vast majority of Africans during the transatlantic slave trade up until 1640 went to Mexico, Peru, and Brazil. And even 37% of all Africans between 1500 and 1640, they passed through the port of Cartagena. which is
Why is
Colombia,
all this important?
which is Colombia.
So, like, I mean, you're getting into the weeds, and I'm loving hearing you talk. Like,
Yeah.
But why is all this important? Like, bring it down to the level of the average person. Why is this important?
Why is it important for me, or why do I think it should be important for everybody?
Why is it important for you? Go ahead.
Well, for me, it's important to understand that the world is bigger than where we are right here and right now, right? And for me, it's very important to know, I think, that the Black experience is a very broad experience.
Okay.
And my upbringing, like I said, is different than yours. I had a lot of people telling me growing up that the things that I do or the way I am or the food that I eat is not Black. But to understand that people in the United States came from Africa by way of a slave trade, being colonized by English-speaking people. But also understanding that that same process happened, but with Spanish, Portuguese, French, just to other parts of the Americas. It's the same thing, different colonizer, right?
Same man.
Yeah, it's the same man. Whether you're black, brown, red, or yellow, the so-called Negro, you've been colonized. Whether it be the Portuguese, whether it be the French, whether it be the other, the Dutchman, it's the same man.
Same man.
And so I say all that to say that this slave trade went on for a while. And as a matter of fact, when it stopped in the United States, because remember, there's the transatlantic slave trade and then there's slavery itself. The transatlantic...
So transatlantic slave trade, I think the British outlawed it in what,
1807.
07.
And
Right. The British outlawed it in 1807.
Yeah. And the United States outlawed it in 1808.
Because, but there was a domestic slave trade that was going on in the United States. Right.
But you don't see Brazil doesn't stop their transatlantic. And transatlantic means they're taking free people out of Africa and they're bringing them to America.
When did that stop?
In Brazil, it doesn't stop until 1850. And in Cuba, it doesn't stop until 1867.
No, see, I didn't know
1867. 1867. So this is why you have such a very strong, powerful African culture in Cuba, because they're it's like 150 years ago there were African people. Yeah, so it's very important that people realize this, and people wonder like, oh, well, why are these Cubans still doing things this way, or why do these Brazilians do things this way? It's a completely different scenario.
But let me say this. It also explains why, growing up Black American, I demonized things that were more African.
Yeah.
Because where I grew up, it's like, okay, that's all like voodoo. And
Yeah.
We now know that those are syncretic religions that have viability in and of themselves.
Yeah.
But as I grew up as Black American Christian, it was like all of that stuff was stuff you stay away from.
Yeah.
But that is because more of the Anglo-Saxon influence.
The Anglo-Saxon influence, and it goes back to the island mentality. Right. Okay. So the island mentality. We are English. That stuff stays over there. This stuff is over here. Our stuff is Anglo. Your stuff is whatever it is. Keep it over there. We don't want anything to do with it. We don't even want to see it, right? That's backwards. That's the devil. That's this. And with Catholicism, there's multiple saints. With a lot of African religions, there's multiple deities. When the Africans came to Catholic countries, they said, dang, they won't let us practice our own religion. They're imposing their religion on us. The English didn't impose religion on their Africans at first. That's not something that happened to the Second Great Awakening in 1830s. But most of American history, white Englishmen did not impose their religion on African people. In the Spanish-speaking countries, the French-speaking countries, Catholic countries, They did. They said, you can't practice that African crap. You practice this Catholicism stuff. So the Africans are like, okay, cool. While you're here watching us, our Obatala would become Jesus. Our Yamaya will become Mary. Our St. James will become Ogun. And they just found ways to mask their own traditions with the Catholic religion. And that's how it became syncretized. It became syncretized in the way that it was. And that's how it was able to survive as well. Because when you can see similarities in Catholicism with your African religions, then you're able to just hide it when you needed to hide it, and then bring it out when you needed to bring it out. And it's able to survive.
Okay, so stop. Now you're bringing in black religion. Now, I hear you talking about it from a diaspora point of view.
Yeah.
But where I come from, like my religion, we say we're Christian and Pentecostal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Africanness.
Yes.
Now I understand in Pentecostalism in America, that is a counterpoint to what's going on there.
Yes.
Let's talk about that next time.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool. Word.
All right.
Bye.